I was standing at the rim of my cornfield again, boots sinking into the dirt that I'd tilled myself just 3 months earlier, staring at the same ugly sight that had ruined my mornings all week, fresh tire tracks slicing clean through my crops like a knife through pie. 4th time. Same white Escalade. Same path. Same destruction. If anger had a texture, it would have felt exactly like that churned up mud. Victoria Peton. HOA Board Treasurer, part-time menace. Her husband Richard ran the Homeowners Association like a tiny suburban kingdom, and she strutted its power like it was royalty in exile. Somewhere along the line, she decided my private farmland, clearly fenced, clearly marked, was her personal shortcut between the country club and her gated community. Easement rights, she'd said once. As if the phrase was a magic wand. Spoiler, there was no easement. My name's Marcus Chin. 47. Former logistics manager turned full-blown Nebraska rancher. I bought these 80 acres precisely because they were outside the smug little empire called Meadowbrook Estates. I wanted open sky, coffee that didn't come from drive-through speakers, and days measured in honest sweat instead of conference calls. But Victoria didn't care about property lines or boundaries, physical or moral. To her, fences were merely suggestions and signs were decor. She believed that if she said something with enough confidence and sunglasses, it became law. I could tell you right now that before this story ends, her $90,000 Escalade would be sitting in my cornfield with all 4 tires flatter than the earth according to internet conspiracy groups, but we're not there yet. Oh no, we've got to rewind a bit. 3 years earlier I'd left behind spreadsheets for steel-toed boots, built my herd, fixed the old farmhouse roof, and planted corn rows in checker-straight perfection. This land had become my sanctuary. Then Meadowbrook Estates expanded westward, brushing up against my boundary. Manicured lawns met honest dirt. It was like a perfume aisle staring down a barnyard. At first, they ignored me. Then Victoria arrived, perfume and pearls gleaming, surveying my farm like she'd discovered an unclaimed continent. It wouldn't take long before her entitlement turned my quiet retreat into a battlefield of ruts, legal jargon, and one very creative solution involving steel, patience, and a satisfying hiss of air pressure justice. The first time that Escalade appeared, I thought I was hallucinating. I was checking the cattle when a chrome monstrosity burst through my corn like a confused rhino. Mud flying, stalks snapping, it roared diagonally across my field toward the HOA's back gate as if GPS had declared my property the scenic route. Day 2. Same SUV, same path. Day 3, I parked my truck right across her route. Tires screeched, brakes wailed, and there she was, designer shades, perfectly ironed disdain. "Ma'am, this is private property," I said, leveling my calmest tone. She giggled. Laughed. "There's an easement from the 60s, sweetheart. Check your records. This has always been a through road." I replied, "I own the deed. There's no easement." Smile. Sunglasses back on. "You're new. You wouldn't understand." Then she drove around me, through another section of corn. I'm not a hothead, but I also don't enjoy being gaslit on my own land. My lawyer, Jim Sutton, verified within 48 hours, clean title, 0 easements, full private ownership. Armed with facts, I thought the madness would end. Instead, she doubled down. Now it was twice a day, like a luxury commuter train through Cornfield Station. My cows spooked every time. Signs didn't work, she treated "no trespassing" as cute lawn art. So I mailed her a cease and desist letter, certified. She opened it, laughed again, and tossed it out the window. Paper confetti of my patience. I called the sheriff. Deputy Morrison, good guy, heard me out, took photos, shook his head. "I'll talk to her," he said. 2 hours later, he came back frustrated. "She says you're harassing her and that she's got documents." Fake ones, obviously. Still, he couldn't arrest her unless he caught her in the act refusing to leave. That night I stared across the rows of broken corn, feeling like the system had mistaken respect for weakness. Next day, I bought a heavy steel gate and locked it with an industrial chain. Finally, victory, or so I naively thought. Saturday morning came with the metal-on-metal shriek of bolt cutters. I stepped outside just in time to see Victoria slice through the lock like a movie villain on a caffeine binge, flip me the bird, and rocket off down her route. The trail cam caught every frame. That was her first real mistake. The report went to Deputy Morrison. The footage showed everything. He advised I lawyer up because she'd officially crossed into criminal property destruction. I did exactly that. Within a week, Victoria's legal cavalry began firing letters faster than a fax machine in 1999, claims of community access rights, accusations of creating hazards. Jim fired back composed masterpieces of lawyerly evisceration. Meanwhile, Victoria escalated the psychological warfare. She honked her horn every time she passed, probably to prove that H in HOA stood for horn. Then came the tragedy. One frosty Tuesday, Daisy, one of my best heifers, due in 6 weeks, was grazing near that cursed route. Victoria's SUV tore through, engine roaring, horn blaring like a battleship. Daisy bolted, stumbled, and by the time I found her, the calf was gone. My heart sank into my boots. The vet confirmed, stress-induced miscarriage. $4,500 loss. But the Rayal wound was emotional. I documented everything, again. Photos, vet report, time stamps, signed statements from my neighbor Dale. Nothing changed. Victoria still barreled through my field as if she owned it. Even the HOA's members started whispering that she'd lost her mind. Dale told me people in Meadowbrook called her Shortcut Karen. A small comfort. That night, under the buzzing warmth of my barn light, I made a decision, not out of spite, but out of necessity. The law's gears turned too slowly, but I had one legal ace up my sleeve: deterrence. 3 days of research later, I learned more about spike strips than any civilian should. Used correctly, they were legal vehicle deterrents, not traps, especially with clear signage. Jim reviewed everything. We crafted the plan like a pair of frontier strategists. New signs every 50 feet, professionally printed, vehicle deterrent devices in use, tire damage will occur. I photographed every sign, logged GPS coordinates, and even briefed the sheriff's office. Full transparency. When the professional-grade retractable strips arrived, I felt weirdly like I'd joined law enforcement. Heavy steel teeth gleamed under the barn lights. Tested them on my old Chevy, worked perfectly, popped the tires neatly without throwing the truck off balance. As Sunday dusk settled, I deployed my 3 elegant rows of justice beneath the stars, legal checklist complete. For the first time in months, I slept with a calm, petty little smile. Monday morning. Coffee. Laptop open, monitors live. Nothing dramatic yet, just birdsong and sunrise over the corn rows. Then, 7:14 a.m., movement at the tree line. The glint of white paint. Showtime. On screen, her Escalade tore toward the first warning sign like a racer against reason. Past 1, 2, 3 giant red signs, she didn't even tap the brakes. I muttered, "Okay, Victoria, your move." Then came the moment, pop. Pop. Even from my barn, I heard those front tires explode like vindication fireworks. She kept going, probably assuming pothole. Rear tires followed, pop. Pop. 4 flats in 5 seconds, Michelin themselves would have wept. The vehicle hobbled forward on collapsing rubber until the second strip shaved the rims clean. Sparks spat briefly in the daylight. Finally, at the third strip, physics finished the job. The Escalade rolled to a humble, wheezing halt, one luxury SUV converted into a $90,000 corn ornament. I saved the footage thrice, because backups are forever. A door opened. Out stepped Victoria, stunned. She examined the ruins of her tires, then erupted, arms flailing, phone raised, the whole symphony of outrage. I stayed calm and called dispatch. Active trespasser, documented warnings, vehicle disabled safely, I recited, caffeine steady. By the time I approached, she was mid-call with someone, probably her lawyer, barking about sue him for everything. You ignored every warning sign on my property, I said when she spotted me. This is the result. You tried to kill me, she shrieked. This is assault with a deadly. Spike strips disable vehicles, Victoria. Police issue technology. You were warned, repeatedly. She started recording, narrating a dramatic monologue for imaginary jurors. I politely gave my own factual counterstatement looking straight into her camera. It was like dueling documentaries. Then, sirens in the distance. Deputy Morrison arrived. Victoria sprinted to him, waterworks on cue. Officer. He set traps. Tried to murder me. He listened, patient as ever, then turned to me. I handed him my folder like a student proudly submitting a dissertation on justice. Deed, warnings, receipts, photos, vet bill, organized perfection. Morrison eventually asked, Mr. Chen, do you wish to press charges? 6 months of frustration flashed behind my eyes, Daisy, destroyed crops, fake legal letters. Yes, Deputy, I said. Absolutely. Victoria's confidence drained faster than her tire pressure. The citation for criminal trespassing hit harder than any spike strip. When Morrison read her the details, property destruction, prior warnings, her voice cracked, this is a civil matter. He shook his head. Not anymore, ma'am. The tow truck arrived, driver whistling at the carnage. For rims, she's done. Victoria's credit card trembled in her hand as she paid the $650 tow bill. She shot me one last glare, promising lawsuits galore. And sure enough, they came, first A. 42000 claim for emotional distress. Jimmy Lilafet Thruthefone perfect. Wheel counter for actual damages. Wettily deverything, crops, gate, vet bills, labor time, 28,000 plus punitive. Our counterclaim landed like a thunderclap. Suddenly, silence. No lawyer letters, no calls, nothing but the sweet hum of cicadas over peaceful fields. Then rumor rippled through town courtesy of neighbor Dale, Meadowbrook's assistant treasurer had discovered embezzlement. Turns out Victoria had been funding her personal crusade, and her shopping sprees, straight out of HOA accounts. Within weeks, the board suspended both petons, launched a forensic audit, and found 60 grand missing. Soon she had bigger problems than deflated tires. The HOA filed criminal charges, Richard resigned. Their fairy tale crumbled faster than soggy cornflakes. When my trespassing case rolled into court, Victoria stood small, pale, and lawyer-swapped for the third time. She pled guilty, paid me $8,500 restitution, and received 12 months probation plus a restraining order, 500 feet minimum from my property. The fence I built afterward was taller, stronger, and worth every penny. 2 months later, she faced separate fraud charges. Rumor says Richard divorced her to save himself. I stopped listening, peace had finally returned. My cows grazed undisturbed, Daisy recovered and conceived again. Sometimes, at sunset, I'd glance at the boxed-up spike strips in my barn and chuckle. They never saw action again, but they'd earned their legend. Around town, locals joked, mess with Marcus's corn, lose your tires. But the real lesson? Boundaries matter. Respect matters. You can stand your ground without losing your integrity. Karma doesn't need a helping hand, just meticulous documentation, unshakable patience, and enough resolve to let the bullies puncture their own egos. No more tire tracks, no more trespassers, just corn, cattle, and calm skies, exactly how I intended when I left corporate life. Justice served, one hiss of air at a time.